Hello and good evening. It is Thursday, March 31st, 2022, and we just finished watching the 14th episode of Big Brother Canada 10 here on Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, which was a double eviction. I'm Dave Mater, joined with co-host Jaemeel Robinson to break this episode down for you tonight as I just finished watching it moments ago. I think it's been off the air for about, maybe a little over an hour now in Canada. Jaemeel, this was an unconventional double eviction.
It was. You're absolutely correct in that regard. So I don't know. How did you like it? Did you like the process of the double eviction?
I think maybe. I don't know. Like, I think I wasn't totally opposed to it. I think it kind of was interesting, the chain of safety and to see how that played out versus if Moose had like the traditional format, if he had won that game and he had become the HOH, and then if he had put nominees up and a veto to follow that. I don't know if it would have been better necessarily than what we got. I imagine if Jeff was here tonight, or we're not ruling a Jeff appearance out, but I'm not feeling it's likely, maybe. And I think Jeff being a purist, typically very.
Is he a purist? I think he wants to travel a path where people don't have outs, right? And this somewhat was like an out for Moose. He didn't have to put up, like, obviously Jess would have been his target and he didn't necessarily have to put her up exactly. It just, the chips fell in a method that allowed him to have an easy way out. But at the same time, it kind of exposed where the pecking order is in the house in some regards, which is always something that I think he would also appreciate, because I think he liked those aspects of Survivor where people are angry, or like people are pitted against each other more often than not. And so I think it would have been, he would have mixed feelings just like how you would have mixed feelings about it as well.
Yeah, like I am curious to hear his take on it, because it was a little different how it played out, and we see the first vote out tonight was Tynesha, not Tiana. Tynesha was voted out in a 5-4 vote, pretty close. Seeing like this divide down the middle, and we saw that Josh maybe tonight is playing both sides. We were kind of talking about last night in the spoiler section that he's kind of working with Helena and Kevin now, but he's definitely still with Summer and Herman and Moose and the, what do they call them? The crew? Your crew?
I think that was just like a term of endearment, not like a specific like group name.
Okay. But like, and we saw that kind of play out again here tonight with that whole chain of safety, and who saved who and in what order, I think was also kind of interesting. And how they voted in the second vote too, a little bit, and who voted for Gino versus who voted for and not to bury the lead, but we see Jess go out in the second vote.
I like Jess, as terrible and messy as this week was. I like Jess still.
I still don't like Jess, and I liked Jess more earlier this week. I thought that the first part of the HOH was going fine. I thought Moose and Herman were fine nominees. I think it was the second part after Herman won the veto where Jess's game really broke down. Even though there were definitely other mistakes before that, I think the way she handled Moose and Herman was bad, especially the conversation she had with Herman and how that, and then the thing with
Betty,
Moose that came off of Betty and everything over there. So yeah, like definitely not the smoothest Big Brother player ever, but there was also and communication issues and different things. But I do have a certain heart for Jess, because Jess, being a super fan, wants to be there, wants to do well, just didn't have all the tools in the toolbox and the right alliance maybe to get it done.
It can be just as simple as that. When people ask what's the difference between one super fan versus another, the knowledge could be all there, but the ability to take that knowledge and apply it to the game in an effective manner, sorry, right? Some of us are not equipped.
Who would have been the best choice? Okay, her target was Moose, or their target was Moose. Who should Jess have put up for Moose to go?
Um, honestly, the the actual issue was she was too wishy-washy. She should
Yeah.
have been like, okay, sorry, they were too wishy-washy. Look, see, now I screwing up my pronouns. Thank you, telepathically telling me, correcting me. I saw you do it.
I did it. I was
Right. Um, they were too wishy-washy in terms of what their thought process was. Uh, this is not Big Brother US where you can put up both your targets and, you know, it could be considered a straightforward and thoughtful move. We have the case studies from the previous 3 weeks of HOHs. You put up
Mhm.
your targets, one of them comes down. It's bad news for you. All right. So you have to, I think going forward, you have to put up a pawn with your target. Who would have been the
Right.
best pawn?
Yes, who's the
Honestly, it
best
would have
pawn?
been all I want to say is Tiana now. You put it in my mind.
When okay,
I
and
don't
when did
know.
that happen? When did that happen? I don't even remember that ever being on the show.
I think she
Um,
accidentally or might have done it occasionally, and it doesn't see it, it seems like it was something that is must have been corrected repeatedly because the annoyance level was pretty high
from Jess.
from Jess. And you know, people make mistakes in terms of people's names, just like other people have made mistakes in terms of Jess's pronouns as well.
Sure.
I don't know what happens there. I really hope to hear exactly what happens. How great it will be that both of them are going to be on the talk show circuit at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Like, there was even like I don't know, like I don't know what quite to make of it. Like obviously Jess doesn't like anything that's anti-Jess, who does, but like anything that's directed at them. But you know, even like when Moose and Herman were doing the dances, any kind of anything like Jess is very easy to rattle, I think. And I imagine that this was not sitting with them quite a bit. You could see that in the like even when they went up to say goodbye and they did their little speech, the
Side eye,
non-binaries.
pure side eye she was giving, like she was looking up, like up the corner of her eye, like I'm just so they're so done with T and her antics. It's like girl bye was the facial reaction that Jess was giving. um
Yes,
I
right.
took a picture of it. Unfortunately, I didn't really have time for my setup, but it's a wonderful one. I'm gonna send it to you because I like the picture. It made me laugh.
Oh, the
Not
side eye.
now, yeah, not now though, because I'm
Yeah.
on a different phone.
Um. Yeah, and
But
just like, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, just very quickly, I told you yesterday
Mhm.
that video was very important, and it was changing the aspect of the house, right? And I'm like, previously, I felt like the boy who cried wolf because I talked about the summer. Sorry, why I keep on saying summer? Betty, Jessica, and Moose fight that they never really showed. And finally, I felt justified. I felt like this sequence of events that I felt was important showed up on the show. It didn't show all of it, but they showed just enough of kind of seeing how players are positioning themselves together in alignment with Josh, Helena, and Kevin. So I was very happy to see that, you know, portrayed on the show.
Right. Like, and yes. And so you're talking about, there was we saw there was a couple conversations before the Tynesha vote tonight where it was like Helena talking with Kevin.
Yeah,
And then she leaves and then, it's Josh and Kevin in the pantry for quite a bit. You
yeah.
know, he's like, are you going to play this game with your big heart or your big brain or whatever. And, you had sent me like that live feed footage last night, which I did watch for a good 20 minutes, I think.
They
You
talked
know,
for a while.
they talked for a while. They talked about, you know, getting Tynesha out and the fact that she's this single mom with this great story, and you really want to go against her at the end. And Josh was definitely saying, I hear what you're saying, Kevin, but like that's like I would lose the trust of Summer and Herman and others if I don't vote to keep her. And ultimately, you know, that's where Kevin, he's like, what if you could vote to keep her and she still goes, but you're in the know about it, you know, and build this trust And that's what happens tonight as well. And then, Josh goes on to vote with Herman and all them again to vote out Jess, which, I think that it was going to go that way no matter what. So
Yeah.
even Kevin goes that way at the end, whereas Helena and Marty vote to vote.
And I felt
vote out
bad
Gino.
that they didn't see that coming. They should have saw that coming. That was some poor. I could understand Marty being Marty, like wanting to throw them a vote. But the way the house was kind of positioning itself, like Jess was not in people's good graces at all.
No, like I understood the Marty vote more than the Helena vote. Because Marty has this history with Gino, and I think that like you backstabbed me and you said all these things about me. It sucks to suck. And then but Helena, like I don't know what Helena had against Gino specifically.
I think Helena is. I feel like the three of them, Kevin, Josh, and Helena, are like cut from the same cloth, but like where Kevin is more of a mastermind and Josh is more reserved, but yet more cautious in terms of how he acts and how he presents. He's very still. He's very methodical in terms of his actions, right? And everything just seems really slow with Josh, right?
Yes.
Helena is like the opposite, where it's just like everything just seems like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to think, and I get
just
frazzled.
like in the diary room tonight. She's like, oh my god, I'm like, oh, pull it together.
But they're caught from the same cloth, and that type of like chaos is a ladder type of approach of thing, and like you could tell the difference between Helena when she's talking to other people just seems kind of lost, but like the perfect example is her in like in the pantry where she's just like, Herman's an idiot. I'm so tired of these people. I'm so tired of tea. I'm so tired of, and she's just there in the corner just sipping her coffee, just talking to herself, and it seems like, where is this confident, calculated person, right? And it's like, the act is really good, but unfortunately, like you throw a ball there, she gets rattled, right, and I think that's where her mindset is, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and so I think it's like I'm getting more and more impressed with Kevin. If he can manage to make his way to the jury phase, I think he's got a really good positioning here.
Wait, technically, it is jury next week.
Are we now starting jury? Is
next week? Next person's going to jury.
The next evictee is oh, they said that on the show. Yeah. Okay,
I'm like, oh, poor Jessica. I'm like, wow, that's just like. T gets the word of a double eviction, and she's like, oh, and then what does Jessica get? Hey, next week everyone's in jury.
Like, yeah, guess what? Everybody but you, Jess. But well, Tanisha was, as she was going out the door, is like, your HOH was worse than Kyle's. Wow. I'm like, oh, well, like, was it? I don't think it was worse than Kyle's. It wasn't good, but it wasn't. They're both bad. I don't know how it's kind of like.
One-way ball, I think, was the difference between.
Kyle was putting up his alliance members. At least Jess wasn't doing that.
Yeah, Jess didn't have any footing in the game, honestly, really. So, from going from a power position to the pariah of the house versus being on an island and then being like set adrift, it's like. Alone I began, alone I shall leave. So
right, but like even from the time so there was all like this footage, and we saw a couple of the conversations that were going on. The Kevin one we talked about, and Helena and Josh, and I think that's a real interesting trio. Yeah. And then there was like these other conversations.
Gino and T.
Yeah, her crying on Gino's shoulder, right? And he was at least being honest about, I don't know if I'm going to vote to keep you or not. Versus just lying about it and telling, because like Jacey-Lynne was kind of like who was it? To Summer. Yeah. To Summer and to Josh was like, I think it's unanimous to vote Moose, right? Like that's the plan, and we're all getting rid of Moose, and and so I don't know if Jacey-Lynne believed that or not at the time when she said it, but it was pretty convincing. But Gino doesn't do that with Tanisha when confronted here. Well, was Marty doing yoga? Is that what was happening in the
Yeah.
next room?
It
Okay.
was like, what? Who is that? I'm like, is that what? What is he
And he
doing? Okay, I
and he
guess.
can't hear, or like from
I guess it didn't even matter at that point, honestly.
right. Because we see, like, by the time we get to the actual vote for Tanisha, Tanisha's in her green dress that she wore for her cast photos and different things out, and then Moose is just in like short and t-shirts, and I'm like, that's usually an indication that like one of the nominees knows they're going for sure, but it's still a 5-4 vote here. It wouldn't have taken much for Moose to go, like someone, just one
If
person had
Helena
to flip.
changed her mind.
If Helena changed her mind, yeah, she was ultimately, I guess, the swing vote here. Right, like, because
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Like, who needed the most type of convincing? And honestly, it wouldn't have been her. It would have been Gino and Jace. Honestly, if Summer was able to really lock them in, then because it
yeah.
would have been like
Right. Well, like I'm always like kind of charmed by Summer's confidence about who's got the votes to stay. We've seen this a few times with Summer, right? When she wants something, she obviously wanted Tynesha to stay here. Tynesha was very important to her, and she goes here. And like in Tynesha, and Summer's just like, yep, like we got the votes. Like this is going to happen. But I think that Summer's actually going to do better potentially without Tynesha, because I just think that I think Summer's threat level will go down now because it won't have that automatic sort of number one attached to her. Now like Summer's a bit more fluid in where she can go and who she can work with. Right. And so, but the other side of this vote tonight, the people who voted to evict Moose included Betty, Herman, Josh, and Summer. But now Moose has stayed, and Moose is working with all the people who voted to evict him.
Yeah.
Right, when we've seen that before, but like,
look, Moose is gonna take what he can get at this point.
Another player might take offense. I don't think Moose is going to be one of them. No, he'll be like,
Moose is like, I'm still here, yeah, yeah.
Right. It'll be interesting to see, like, down the road if he'll like remember when you all voted to keep Tynesha over me. I haven't forgotten. Now the Moose revenge is coming. Right.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole vote that the whole episode was very quick, right? Because
it did. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't really feel for a 2-hour episode today.
No, this was fine. And I think that if this format made them feel like they could get it done in an hour, I'm okay with that.
Well, like technically everyone, with the exception of HOH, got a chance to compete for safety. And then they also had another opportunity to get safety again, including the HOH. So for folks who are going, oh, the HOH never really got a chance to veto and save themselves, is like, hey, you had the bottom three was able to fight for their safety and they didn't win. So therefore they did have a chance. So I have no problem with it. Me personally, if I was in the house and I was in the bottom three, I would have been pissed as hell. But that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's just how it goes, exactly. And I thought that well, yeah, like Jess couldn't compete in the bowling part, but that was really it, because like the HOH in Jess could have been included in that chain of safety, right?
Yeah.
So just to talk about like the warped bowling part of it, which I thought was, we've seen versions of this before, different versions of this game. I thought it, especially for like double eviction formats, and Moose, almost scores a 1, but then it kind of rolls the other way and it goes into the 15. And then the rest of that was kind of like just listening to Arissa. She's like, you have to beat. That's not enough to beat a 15. I'm like, nothing's enough to beat a 15. If you look at the numbers,
and then it comes
the most you can do is tie Moose here. So you have to go for the 15.
Yeah.
And yeah, Moose was
Betty
like
gets a 0.
Betty only got a ball. Betty got a Betty. Who came? I don't even know who came. If anyone came that close to, I think 12 was the next highest score, and I don't even remember who got
12,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Moose's celebrations sometimes are just. Whew,
I was
you
like,
know,
hurt your leg.
yeah, don't injure yourself, Moose. This is a long game. And so yeah, so he's jazzed.
He
They come out.
celebrates and then he's like, I got lucky. I'm like, bro, seriously, like you need to find a level and stay at it, because you saying, yes, I did it. Yeah. I was lucky. I was lucky. I was lucky.
A little there's mixed messages, I think, in
No.
there, and what you're trying to convey, because like I don't know if it's making you more endearing, quite frankly.
No.
But anyway, and how this worked is like, yeah, Moose got to save somebody, and then that person, and so on up until I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people got saved, right? And then 3 were going to be left vulnerable.
Yeah, there was only one person left.
Okay, so let's talk about just who saved who, which I think this was very interesting. I think this is always kind of fun to see these kinds of things play out, whether it be in Big Brother or Survivor. So Moose saves Herman. Okay, they were co-nominees, and very, very strong indicator here. And then Herman saves Josh, right?
Yep. Strong people alliance.
Josh saves Betty,
which I was like, oh my gosh, like damn.
Right, and then Betty saved Summer,
and
so up until this point, like it's all POCs saving each other here. And then we go. The first one to break that is Summer, who saves Kevin.
Yes,
which that was a bit of a surprise.
Well, who else are you gonna pick?
Helena.
No, she's probably she probably thinks that Helena was the one who flipped, and therefore was like, screw Helena. It's not going to be Jason Gino because they're on the other side. Not going to be Marty. And she
Summer had to save somebody who voted the other way, who just voted the other way.
So she would pick Kevin. She's closer to Kevin than the other.
Yeah, so she picks Kevin. Now, Kevin could have saved Jess here. Doesn't. Chooses to save Marty instead.
I think Jess was a dead person walking. If Jess didn't go, it would be Marty fighting, I think.
Right.
Because Marty, who would have Jess would have picked? Jess would have picked.
If Kevin had picked Jess here, and then she probably would have picked Helena, right?
They would probably have picked Helena, I think.
Yeah, I can't imagine Jess would save Gino or Jacey-Lynne or Marty.
Or Marty?
Maybe Marty. Right. So then we could have ended up, but it seems so why were Gino and Jacey-Lynne sort of left to the bottom is maybe another good question. Why was no one willing to save them? Jess kind of makes sense, but
who's because you're always going to be number 2 at the very least. At the most, sorry, at the most.
Because they're a showmance and and so it's really up to one of them to save each other, but they never got
honestly
picked. Yeah. So are those two playing a good game, or would you say no? Like, are Gino and Jacey-Lynne sort of?
Yeah.
I can't quite get a read because I lost Tynesha tonight in the draft, and so I only have Gino left, and all my hopes are pinned to Gino.
You lost a very strong player who honestly only got out because of a weird HOH week. But I guess at this point, all HOH weeks are weird.
They've all been weird. There hasn't been like this is a textbook HOH. Doesn't exist.
Doesn't it kind of feel like every week can go by and Summer's not going to go up?
Summer is like I think you have to give her a lot of credit for the game she's playing, and she's and I think that like if you're cheering for Summer, I think that even though this Tynesha thing obviously hurts Summer in some ways, she's actually probably going to do better in the long term because of it, because her threat level will be decreased now. Because she doesn't have that like ride or die, right? Like at least not as apparent, right? She'll have to find somebody new. I'm kind of curious to see what that means for Summer. Is that Betty? Betty saves Summer.
No,
right?
No. Like honestly, if I was Summer, it's Herman. He's the bigger target because he's so flashy and like out there that people are gonna attack him first, right? He's paired up with Moose more or less, right? Because you can automatically say Herman and Moose are paired. You see how they saved each other,
and they were on the block together,
right?
Yeah,
they're two alpha bros. Like that's a perfect place for Summer, right? If Summer's able to like kind of be positioned where it looks like she's like the third person and able to work with other pieces in the house, kind of like what she's already doing right now, that's
Yep.
great. That's a great position, right? Let
Right.
Herman, take all the shots
The problem with
and
Harmon is like Harmon only values you as an alliance member seemingly if you win challenges, and that's not what Summer likes to do. Summer likes to not actually
she
be the
just
one
needs to
to
get second place,
right,
almost
which I,
win.
I agree with her game, but I think it's like it doesn't necessarily fit into Hermon's philosophy of the
I
game.
know, but like there's a difference between getting second place, like coming close, and you going, "Oh shoot, I totally screw up because I was looking at the dude's muscles." It's like
Mhm.
it's not going to be appreciated in terms of that method of gameplay.
Keep your eye on the prize, Summer.
Oh
Stop
yes,
looking. Not Jensen's not the prize. It's not Jensen. A little rain kiss. Yeah, I know he's the most beautiful man ever, if you ask Beth, but it's not happening. I don't think they lasted. Did Jensen and Beth not last?
I don't
No,
think so. Oh my
I
gosh,
guess not.
Justin and Beth. Uh,
Right. Okay.
um,
Can we talk about under pressure though? Dun, 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 dun.
I honestly I thought it was um for a second there I thought it said pressure cooker, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is pressure cooker back? Like,
Your
how are they
favorite
gonna do that?
challenge ever?
Yeah.
Under
Did you
pressure.
like it?
No. This was fine. I thought like stick all the colored balls into the two fastest, and don't. And if you put one the wrong one in, then you got to start over. And yeah, it was interesting that Jacey-Lynne wins this. She was not the one I would have picked of these three because like you imagine that Jess would have sort of just this fire under her to them to do better.
Jess was doing well. It's just that one ball had them reset, and the funny thing was Herman pointed it out, right?
But
Herman's like,
Herman was not trying to help Jess,
really?
right?
You don't think so?
I can't imagine like how with the amount of glee that Herman voted out Jess
Well, I
tonight.
think that's just competitive spirit, and having at the end how the week has turned out where you best the person. I think Herman would prefer to beat someone on the battlefield and feel satisfied that they were able to slay them than someone slipping on a banana peel and you just laughing.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Maybe there's more honor to Herman
But
than I
that being
give him credit
said,
for.
not listening to Herman and then having to reset and lose, right? And then
Well, Herman,
there's
yeah,
the
Jess
great
waited too long, right?
there was the great well Jess didn't realize it until they were putting in the last bit of green balls and it was over the amount, realizing that yes, I have a white ball in there and I have to reset. And I'm like, couldn't you like hold up like close up the other holes so that it doesn't fall out and only the green ones fall out, but just reset them all. I would be the most annoying contestant because I would be like, Arissa, hands in the air right here.
Can I ask a question? We are on live TV, Jaemeel. We will not be asking questions about the challenge.
Then I would be looking for every opportunity to take shortcuts as much as I possibly could.
Right.
Um,
I thought this was fine and interesting in some ways. I thought that maybe this even played into Jess's skill set as a graphic designer or an artist. To just pull colors, sort colors. That's all you're doing is sorting colors.
they
Really
were
quickly.
doing well.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were doing well and seemed to be pretty far off. I wasn't a big fan of Jacey-Lynne's doing one color at a
One
time.
color at a time, but it worked. She won.
She won because Jess messed up.
I think she still would have won anyway. That was
Check the tape.
like
Let me check the tape. Go
check
back.
the tape how close it really was, but it seemed like Jacey-Lynne actually was the best at this challenge, even more than Gino. And her, yeah, she did all the blue, and then she would do all the yellow or something next, and she went through them. Whereas and Gino had a kind of a similar strategy.
I don't know what Gino was doing. It just
Yeah,
seemed very weird.
it's all a blur. It was minutes ago. I was watching this,
Okay.
but
Actually looking at it right now, um Jess was almost done everything else, but had a white ball in blue and a white ball in green.
yeah, there was It was she
And
they,
whereas at the end, just before Jace won, Jace was halfway done their orange. So technically if the white balls weren't there, um Jess would have won.
Just what
Gino was not close.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm looking at it now, and green and orange is done. Orange has like about maybe 4 balls left, and blue was done with one extra ball, one extra white ball. So they had what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What? Sorry, more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 balls, and one blue ball. 10 balls left, and whereas Jace had maybe 12.
Okay, so it could have gone. It was either going to be Jacey-Lynne or Jess. It sounds like Gino was third place for this ultimately.
Yeah.
But it was all quick and it was somewhat close. Anyway, so Jacey-Lynne ends up with the safety, even though Jacey-Lynne probably needed it the least of these three.
Really?
That was my feeling, because I'm like, well, Jacey-Lynne's the least tempting target here. I think Gino is the one you'd want to get out of her.
I would think no. I think Herman would feel like, hey, we can bro up, right? You would lose
Herman,
Jacey-Lynne because
maybe.
who would Gino have?
Gino's still just like a competitive player, and I don't think somebody you want to, like, if you can avoid it, you would not want him to go further in the game than you have to. So, like, if let's say it was Gino and if Gino and Jacey-Lynne were sitting up on the block at the end here, I think you vote out Gino.
If you're Summer, sure, but if you're Herman, you would keep.
Herman's wrong. Herman is
he is wrong, but still, that's what Herman is thinking. When I the ending of the challenge, and you see everyone hugging Jace, and all you see is Jess just standing to the side, and I'm like, oh, I just feel for them. It's just like, well, like, that's how it goes.
I definitely do feel for Jess. Like, I've definitely been that person who doesn't fit in and is awkward around people, and but Jess also doesn't do themselves any favors, really, because Jess is often being Jess. I don't know how else to say it. Like, just the way they communicate is just a bit frustrating, and I like, you saw like just that exuberation from especially from Moose and Herman when they finally got to the vote tonight. They're like, we vote to evict Jess, and they just been like, guys, settle down. Like, what
it's like, look, you won, you don't need to like calm it down,
right? Because it was just like, it was, again, like, I get that Jess was a difficult player made to play with, but and you didn't like going on the block, but I don't think this is the appropriate reaction. I think it was a little bit over the top from as far as I was concerned, because it often comes down to this idea of like how certain players think that they're better than other players, and for reasons that I don't really believe or take much stock in. Just because you're more popular, and that's the high school dynamic at Big Brother, and that's always going to be there. I think it's just how, especially with the younger the cast is, the more you get that effect, right? So and so the speeches here, I thought Gino's speech was actually really nice. He's like, I remember when I turned on Kyle and we voted out Kyle, I did that for you guys, so how would you return the favor? I was like, good speech, Gino. That was probably the best thing you could say.
Jess probably knew that they were out the door, so they're like, well, I'm gonna tell my piece so I can just get ready to go.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out, the first vote was 5-4 and this was 7-2, right?
Because there's no HOH.
Because there's no HOH. That's why. I was like, how did the same amount of people vote in both votes?
No HOH.
Right. Yeah, and so Jess goes here with only, as we said, Marty and Helena voting to keep Jess. But I think that in Marty's case, it was to vote out Gino, because you said all these things about me, Gino. I don't think it's right.
It sucks to suck.
It sucks to suck, like my daughter would say.
I also believe that Jess is like, I'm not here, but Betty is. And I made such a big deal about people deserving to be here and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But Jess is still there. But Betty's still there. The
Betty,
goatiest of goats.
the goatiest of goat. Have we seen a goat like her since
Victoria.
Victoria? Yeah, this is
Victoria.
the same category.
Betty's gonna make a story about how a seagull or a beaver picked her up one day and almost used her as wood to make a dam.
Business beaver.
Business beaver. Oh my gosh.
Beaver money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then the Jess's exit and sort of what was it they said is sort of because was today like Trans Awareness Day or something like
was.
that, and not non-binary. So Jess gave a bit of a speech. To all my non-binary siblings out there, I love you, and you don't need anybody else's validation and everybody else. But sometimes I feel like that is what often is sought, but and that there's nothing wrong with validation, but Jess's speech, she's representing, they're representing, I'm sorry, it's and then came out and talked with Arissa, and was very gracious, I thought, in the exit interview, and then it was kind of
Jess already packed all of her stuff. Already packed all of their stuff already.
But I guess Jess was kind of half expecting this kind of result, maybe, or was kind of prepared for it.
You know what? It would be something that I would do. I often go on trips. Like, for example, whenever I go to San Diego Comic-Con, every night when I get to the hotel, I repack my bags.
Just in case?
It just better, one, it keeps the area tidy because pretty quickly your hotel room could just be a mess where just everything's everywhere. And I hate that like last day or last 2 days where you're just like, I need to put everything and figure out where everything is. Did I leave something underneath the bed? Is it on the side? It feels kind of better to know where everything is. And if everything's in like a compact space, it makes sense. Like there's stuff I hang up, obviously, but like, even when I buy stuff, I make sure that it can fit into the bags going back, because you don't want, and it's happened where the day before and you're like, I have too much stuff, so I either need to get rid of my stuff or I need to buy more luggage.
Or I guess, or ship things, I guess, would be the other option.
But
that's a whole other pain in the butt. But if I stay at a hotel for more than, especially if it's for more than one night, I tend to move in. I put stuff in the drawers and like the dressers. I get my stuff spread out, and then I consolidate.
I like when they say living out of a suitcase. This is what I'm talking about.
Well, it's very sensible. I guess.
But I guess you would look at it as like, you need to relax, Jaemeel. You need to relax.
No, I think it's just how I find if everything's in a suitcase, and then I might need something at the bottom of that suitcase, and so I like just to declutter myself so I know where things are and I can find things, and so it's just a different system, I think, for me.
I iron stuff.
You iron stuff?
I iron stuff. So
it depends
like
if it's
I roll
a
it up. I roll
not,
it up things into like rolls, so that when like, oh, I need a new t-shirt, I'm gonna iron it before I go out.
Right. I've come a long way in my packing over the years. I used to not be very good at all, especially at the end of a trip. But yeah, like, so Jess packed everything. She's like, they're like, you know where to find it. I just put it there. Don't touch my stuff. I think it could have also been this like fear of like, if this is a double tonight, I don't want anyone touching my stuff.
Oh, I'm going back. I don't think that's not what they said.
What did they say?
I'm going back because I'm actually at the scene. I have it playing. When immediately before people were finished hugging, they were already up the stairs. Like they turned the corner and they're like, oh, already going up the stairs. It's like, see you, Jess. And then they say, all my stuff is packed. It'll be easy for you all. Oh no. The captioner just missed out a whole bunch of words.
Oh, okay. Wow, it happened very quickly. It was live.
Too, so. Yeah, they opened the door even before they were ready to leave. They're like, in the middle of the speech, it's like, doors open.
And like the other thing in both of these evictions, and we've seen this, like they put the mask on just to walk out, and then they take it off when they get in a chair for some reason. And I'm always like,
Okay, you know why? It's from last season. Because it is a direct path straight out the doors. They cut it.
You pass
because
people.
it's taped. It's taped live. So they cut to them going out the main doors, and then it's a whole walkway. Remember last time where they're like, "Oh no, go this way."
With Jedson and with Tara, right?
Yeah.
Last year. Yeah, that's right. Because it's you're right. That's Jeff often talks about the idea that he doesn't like how people have to exit in this house, not just going up those big stairs, but then it's not like you can open the door and like see out and see Arissa. There's even more distance than
which I kind of appreciate, because I don't want people standing by the hey everybody.
No, because they're so desperate to see somebody else than these other like people that they've been living with for 3 weeks or 4 weeks at this point. What are we on, day 34? So what is that now? We're up to we're like to 6 weeks now, right? So we're heading into week 6.
Yeah.
And so that was the episode. Have they played the HOH yet? Do we have spoilers to get into?
I don't have any information. You know what? Monday-ish.
We'll talk about it Monday. You'll find out Monday like the rest of us, everybody. But just to quickly look at where we stand in the draft, as we lost 2 people tonight. So in our Jen's case, she still has Helena. She lost Jessica and Jay so far. Sean has all 3 people of his draft. He's Josh, Betty, and Summer. Betty's probably not getting him the win, but Josh and Summer are pretty good.
Oh, Betty could be second place.
Easily is probably the heir apparent to be second place in this game and win the $10,000 or whatever you get for second place. B Money, they'll call her. Marty and Jacey-Lynne, drafted by Jeff. I think they're. I don't know if either are winner material yet. I would be surprised if Jacey-Lynne won this game quite a bit. I'm not saying it can happen. Marty, I think, has a long climb to win this if he's going to be the winner. Jane has Herman. She lost Stephanie on day 20. Herman, again, like, hard to imagine, but if he's sitting next to the right person at the end, if he's sitting next to Betty at the end, he can win.
Herman's not making it. Herman's that dude that wins a couple of thing and is, oh, remember Herman? Yeah, I remember Herman. He's not. Oh, I remember Herman who won. It's I remember Herman who played. He's not a winner. He's not
not a winner. Not a winner material.
We'll talk to him the same way we talk about Judd. Same way we talk about like McCrae. These people that like were in the game and were recognizable, but they weren't in part of the end game.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. And then I lost Tynesha, as I mentioned a couple times tonight.
Good player.
Very. Whatever. And then Gino is I still have. I don't know. Gino, he's so quiet. He's so reserved. He's hard to root for sometimes, but
he's not going to offend anyone too.
No, he's not going to offend anyone. I find I'm cheering for Kevin, even though I don't have him in the draft. Amanda does. And then Jaemeel, she lost Melina. That was the first boot. And then Moose, you had Kyle and Moose who were working together for a time, a hot second before Kyle turned on him. And so, you still have Moose. Now, can Moose win this game?
No, Moose is not winning this game.
It's hard to see how he's past the end. Yeah.
Unless he changes how he plays and something drastic happens, I don't see it.
Who do you think has a better chance of winning, Herman or Moose?
Moose.
Okay.
Moose can still have a conversation and break bread with people. Herman is just too petty and he's like a big child.
Yeah. He's immature. He comes across as immature and very reactive, whereas Moose is at least chill most of the time, unless he wins a competition, and then he's
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Josh
Okay.
Martinez.
Yeah, he's kind of a little bit
Yeah.
some similar energy there for sure. Okay, so I think we're going to that's it for our coverage tonight of the live eviction. It was a fun one. It was an interesting one, memorable, and I thought that this format was I liked it better than a triple eviction format. I'll tell you that much.
God,
So
please none, please none.
especially like for a pre-jury phase, this worked pretty well, I thought. So good job, Big Brother Canada. Monday, we're going to be back to talk about who's the next HOH as we head into week 6. And the first member of the jury will be evicted 1 week from tonight. We'll be talking about that in a week's time. Yeah, like I'm excited to see how this plays out. How many more weeks do we have this season?
5 more weeks.
It goes to week 10, so we have we're at the pretty much at the halfway point, more or less. It's day 69 is sort of like the end, and we're at day 34, so we still have 35 days to go. So halfway through the game, and I don't know, go Kevin, I guess, is kind of where I'm left with things more than anything, or maybe go Josh if I don't know, like Josh is starting to grow on me a little bit just when he interacts with Kevin. Otherwise I'm out on Josh.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, make sure to cover everything we cover here on Big Brother Canada 10. We hope you enjoyed it here, and also check out our coverage of Survivor Season 42, which we're doing every Wednesday night when they release a new episode. Last night's episode was episode 4, Vibe of the Tribe. I won't tell you who got evicted or not evicted. Voted out because there's no evictions on an island, on a beach. And then also check out our other podcasts, including we did the Beatles Get Back documentary series back in the late last year.
Playing with the metrics, Dave.
I was pointing out to Jeff today, like, hey, those three Beatles podcasts are like in our top 5 all-time views. Those 3 episodes. So it's something to mention. And if you like the Beatles and you want to hear Jeff Mader talk about it, it's there. Jameel's not checking it out, but you can. And then on the Marvel Cinematic Universe side of things, which is another thing we often talk about on this channel, we've been covering things ever since WandaVision came out in 2021. Most recently, we talked about Hawkeye. The next thing we're talking about is going to be Moon Knight. Moon Knight. What's going on with him? I don't know. Oscar Isaacs. He's a Moon Knight. And we're going to be talking about that. And then Doctor Strange is the next cinematic thing to come out. That will be in May. And I think that's everything worth mentioning on this channel. Also, we got 2 other channels. One's called Trivial Debates, a monthly channel. We argue about movies, TV, sports, and more. Jaemeel Robinson, right from this own podcast, was competing not long ago, just this past Sunday, March 27th, when Max Duda was hosting against Jody Simpson and Worf, son of Moog. Yes, that Worf, son of Moog, if you were wondering. It was a controversial episode. If you want to
check it out. I think it's worth checking it out.
Check out that controversy. And do you agree with Max's decisions is really the question you need to be asking yourself. Because Max would ask a question, his 3 competitors would give answers, and then he would decide who was right. Maybe he was right, maybe he was wrong. You tell us in the comments. And then Live Long in Podcast, we have a Star Trek theme channel where we talk about Star Trek all the time, new and old, including on Monday nights with Jody Simpson. We talk about Star Trek Enterprise and Adam Woodward and Kevin Millard over there. We've been going through every episode, rewatching them, talking about them one by one. Very similarly, on Tuesday nights, we talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, going through those episodes now for 2 years. We just we're doing up to season 5 now of Deep Space Nine. We are going to be talking about, we just talked about the darkness and the light. We're doing the Begotten next. That's our next episode we're going to be covering. And then on Thursdays, if that's often the newest episode of Star Trek's coming out. Right now, we're in Star Trek Picard in their 2nd season. We just talked about the 5th episode tonight. That's why we're a little later on tonight. I was talking with Jody Simpson and Davin Skellhorn about the 5th episode. It was called Fly Me to the Moon, directed by Jonathan Frakes. It was really interesting. The season has been interesting. Maybe not perfect, but it's got a lot of merit.
It's a step up from last season.
It's definitely a step up from last season,
from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I think it's got its issues, but I'm enjoying it. And and then we were talking about Star Trek Discovery not that long ago, because that just wrapped up its 4th season. I was talking about that with Michael Chan. He's a cast member from Star Trek Discovery. You want to hear me talk to a cast member? Go check out those Discovery podcasts. You're better off to watch the episodes first, then watch the podcast. But
yes,
but they're all there. And then Star Trek Radio Theater is this other thing we do over in Live Long and Podcast, where we do like script reads of the different episodes. We do reenactments, sometimes with some new interpretations on these characters. Davin Skellhorn, my cousin, and yours will be playing Jean-Luc Picard opposite Adam Woodward as he's playing Captain Dathon from the episode Darmok. This was a great episode of Star Trek The Next Generation from like 1990. It's about a race that only speaks all in metaphors, and you got to find how to connect. We have Discovery's own Michael Chan competing in this. We have Jeff Mader from this own podcast, from Super Mader Brothers podcasting, playing Geordie LaForge. I'll be playing Dr. Crusher, and we got a great cast for it. So check that out. The live read of that's gonna be April 9th, 2022 at 9:30 p.m. And then we later turn that into like an edited version down the road. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's it. Oh, check out our friends podcast. My son Eamon Mader, he's got a podcast called The Hellbound. Or no, he doesn't have Hellbound. He has his podcast called Let's Talk About Fighting Games. He does with his friends, including Super Smash Bro, Seth, and Paranoia. You gotta make sure you put the commas in there, even if he won't. And then also our friend Michael Chan, along with Alex Blackburn, they do a podcast every Wednesday called the Hellbound Podcast. That's a horror themed podcast. They do different things over there. If you like horror, I would recommend it highly. And then Davin Skellhorn, my cousin and yours, he's got Locutors of Trek, his Star Trek themed channel, and X-Men the animated series X-Rated, which he does with his friend Andre, going through all those episodes. And that's all the plugs. And thanks for being with us tonight. Thank you, Jaemeel, for talking about this double eviction with me. It's been a pleasure as always. And
same.
And we'll sign off for tonight. But until then, remember, someone is always watching.
And remember, someone is always watching.
Jessica even played along.